Greetings, Wonders.
Greetings, Maggie.
Would you please go to whom, to where, and to when you are directed? Would you please locate your coordinator, Maggie McGoffin Gadet, on June 3rd, 2006?
Yes, we have you.
We are gathered here at 8361 11th Line, RR number 2, Thornton, Ontario, to do a general session for the Direction of Humanity workshop group entitled Choosing the New Paradigm. Would you please begin?
Given that shifting consciousness to a consciousness of free choice from a consciousness of fear would in effect allow you to exist differently, let's explore what would occur in the real world if you were to choose this way. The first thing that would occur is that nothing would change. And it wouldn't change because, dear friends, even though you would choose to move through the consciousness, create a shift in consciousness within yourselves, the shift would have to manifest itself over time. But eventually what would occur is this. Individuals, realizing that they have truly free choice, would choose to appreciate themselves differently. There would be less need to flagellate the self, to harm the self. There would be less fear of what others could do to you and what you could do to others. And so as a result, there would be an appreciation amongst individuals. Every individual would learn to appreciate the others for their differences, for their choices, and for their manifestations. Racism would be reduced substantially, almost to the point of extinction. Judgments of the self would be reduced substantially, almost to the point of extinction. Not quite, but almost. And you would find tolerance begin to manifest itself. You would find that as a society, individual societies, there would be more and more tolerance. Religion would alter and shift, where it would truly move into a perspective of spirituality rather than a perspective of judgment. There would be less judgment. And so again, tolerance would expand. So you would find that racial discrimination, religious discrimination, sexual discrimination, all of that would in effect be reduced. Slowly at first, yes, eventually more and more. You would find that there would be a certain desire on the part of individuals to no longer accept self-flagellation, self-harm. So choices would be made that would reflect this within the corporate environment. Companies would no longer be allowed to pollute the environment, all in the name of profit. There would be an intolerance at first of this type of behavior. Eventually, they would be allowed, there would be a greater tolerance of it, but in the tolerance of it, there would also be an unwillingness to choose it. So there would be no economic profit in choosing to create harm to the environment and to individuals, for individuals would no longer choose to buy those corporate products. And so as a result, there would be a great voting with the dollar. Yes, there's parts of that occur presently in your society, but very limited, we assure you. This would be virtually global. You would find that from a global perspective, eventually countries and their boundaries would be set aside. Eventually what would occur is that you would not have, at first there would be countries as they exist presently, and eventually there would be regions as you're moving towards economic regions, and eventually virtually physical regions, and eventually this would move into a oneness, into a global perspective, so that there would be no separation of countries. You would find that the basis of war, which presently exists, of judgments of past harms, of past hurts, and of future possible harms and hurts, would be set aside. There would no longer be a necessity to maintain anger and fear within the self. You would find that anger would dissipate substantially. And so the resultant is that you would find that there would be a greater willingness to cooperate, to find a creative solution to difficulties. It's not to say that there would be no difficulties, but there would be a desire to come up with a creative solution to it. So creativity would expand as well. And you would find that there's, as a result of this creativity, there would be much more in the form of physical products. You think you're in the technological age now. Imagine what we assure you that there would be, this is nothing compared to what it would be eventually if you moved into a consciousness of free will and free choice. What you would find as well is that individuals would enjoy each other more. Not just appreciate, but they would enjoy. There would be a real joy of themselves and the environment that they find themselves in. There would be a joy of discovery, a joy of exploration, a joy of uncovering new aspects of the possibilities of the planet. So there wouldn't be a desire to term it overfish the planet to the point where there is nothing left, to cultivate the planet to the point where there is nothing left, to eliminate forests, etc. You would find that the planet would allow itself to then move to a state of balance. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be shifts within the planet. That doesn't mean that there wouldn't be term it certain warming in certain areas and cooling in other areas, and that these particular things wouldn't occur in a shifting basis. That obviously will occur, for you are simply on the planet. You're not custodians of it. You're not in control of it. But what would occur is that there wouldn't be such a great fear within yourself, and you would not fear the planet's movements. And the resultant is that you would discover new technologies that would allow you to enjoy the planet's movements while not adding harm to it. Eventually what would happen is that this would bring you to term it such an awareness of yourselves as a consciousness, such an awareness of yourselves as a freedom of choice consciousness, that you would then try to bring this to those other planets that you would have by now explored, for there would have been new technologies that would have allowed you to move into exploration of new planets. You would have encountered new races, new solar systems with different forms of life forms, and you would then, in fact, explore freely, joyously, and appreciatively, rather than explore through fear and try to control. You would find that you would become the diplomats of the universe. You would attempt to shift the consciousness of other racial forms that are intent on harming, that are intent on controlling, and intent on warlike ways to control, virtually, rephrase, not command, control the solar systems. And the result is that virtually the universe itself would look to humanity and its descendants as choices as assistants to help in bringing this shift in consciousness throughout all of the universe. There would be a complete new extension of yourselves. At first, this will begin from individuals and then eventually move into your small local neighborhoods, and eventually into your cities and towns, and eventually into your countries and states, and eventually into the world. So there would be a new way of existing, a way of existence in which creativity is encouraged, in which exploration is supported, and in which free choice is actually appreciated and reveled in. And your method of communication wouldn't change substantially. We've spoken before with regards to the ability to communicate telepathically. Eventually this will be enhanced. First mechanically, yes, but eventually you will rediscover some of these talents that exist within you. And so the resultant is that humanity as a whole will be sought out, not out of fear to try to harm it, but out of a desire to explore and enjoy what you yourselves have created for yourselves. How's that for a new paradigm?
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Isn't that what you're doing with yourselves?
Yeah, it is.
So how then is this any different from you?
It's not. It's just bigger scale.
Bigger scale. Which is why we keep encouraging you to shift yourselves so that you can become the examples for the bigger scale. Interesting, wouldn't you say? Any questions? No? We've given you so much. Can your minds not grasp this?
I'm kind of curious, the length of time you talked about earlier today for all this to sort of happen. Sort of best case was hundreds of or thousands of years.
Yes.
Can we kind of get there in our lifetimes here?
As a humanity? As a consciousness of humanity?
As individuals?
As individuals? Yes. For example, you yourself could achieve this in your lifetime. Easily. In fact, you could achieve it within the next 2 to 3 years. If you were willing, you could achieve it within the next 24 hours, but you're not going to go there anyways.
Why wouldn't I go there?
Because it would take such radical change to yourself, dear friend, that your consciousness of fear would not allow it. You're not yet ready.
Okay.
So, instead of saying, okay, fine, then in that case I'll never do it, realize here we're saying to you, do it. You can do it. But because of the perspective of time, the limitations you have with regards to certain parts of fear, you're still not going to get rid of it completely. It's still going to be with you. Then take the time. But do continue to shift. Do you think?
Yep.
Please.
I have a hard time. This is just a perspective of if we started the process now.
Yes. What we gave you is the perspective of a paradigm that would manifest itself if humanity chose. Do you see? And humanity will choose, by the way.
Yes.
Whether it occurs now or whether it occurs 300 years from now is irrelevant. Humanity will choose. But the key is that as it chooses, you will start seeing these changes. So humanity eventually will re-listen to these particular recordings and they will say, that's what they were talking about. Do you see? But then we'll have to come back again and slap them on the side of the head and remind them that we were around. Do you see? A little humor there, dear friends. You're allowed to laugh. Such a serious group.
Isn't this like a dream of our humanity to achieve this?
No, it's not a dream.
It isn't?
This is the consequence of choice.
Okay, maybe it's my dream then.
Yes, you can make it a dream.
Well, I mean, it's like my longing, you know. Not a dream, you know, it's my longing to achieve.
There's a difference between a dream and a longing.
Yes.
You want to achieve that for yourself.
Yes.
You long for it. What's stopping you?
Choice. And being ready, and I feel like I'm fine.
But being ready is choice, isn't it?
Yes.
Then you think you're finally there, and that's choice.
Yes.
So?
So nothing's stopping me, just my choice.
Exactly. What's stopping humanity?
Choice.
That's it. You see, understand the psychology of humanity as well as the psychology of yourself. If there isn't an example to follow, then it's unknown. And if it's unknown, then you fear it. And because you're in the psychology of fear or the consciousness of fear, why would you choose it? Do you see? But when there's an example that's been created, because an individual such as yourself has been courageous enough to say, I choose differently. Do you see? Then humanity will stand up, look and say, I can too. Remember when we said to you earlier that dear Rene had to go through his choices and change from a consciousness of fear to a consciousness of free choice? Remember we said that? Have you not used him as the example?
Yes.
So you had an example to choose from. Do you see? Were it not for that example, you would never have chosen. Do you see what we're saying? So now you are the example as well. Do you see how it works?
Yes.
And eventually all of humanity will choose. But humanity is no different than you. Humanity wants an example.
And even with an example, you still have to go through the process.
Exactly. Still a lot of resistance, still a lot of fear. True?
True.
And there's still resistance even now. But you're moving to a point of existence where the consciousness of free choice will be stronger than the consciousness of fear. Does it?
Isn't an example a how-to?
That's what you're looking for. All of you needed one, so you looked to dear Rene as his example, and he became the example to you. But in truth, if you observed carefully, as much as you enjoyed his example, you still did it yourselves. Does it? It's just all you needed was a mental image that you could aim towards. You still chose your own path towards it. Do you see? In other words, if somebody said to you that you could reach the top of Mount Everest, you would need a mental image of what that means. Do you see? You would want to see someone climb, see them do it, see them achieve on top, and then you would say, yes, that can be done. Do you see? But you would still use your own way of climbing up Mount Everest, wouldn't you? And that's what dear Rene was to you. He was the example. Term it the documentary under which you were able to perceive how it could be done, that it could be done, then you chose your own path. You see?
Because then it's real for us.
Yes. If you choose his path, it becomes just a replication of his journey, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And if you just replicate his journey, are you in the consciousness of fear or the consciousness of free choice?
Fear.
Exactly. So you began in the consciousness of fear. Once you chose the consciousness of free choice, because you realized it was possible, then you created, you had to. You had to, otherwise you wouldn't have free choice. You created your own path. Do you see?
So we started off with the how-tos until we realized it was about making our own path.
Yes. Why do you think for the first 3 years we began speaking, we gave you all the how-tos necessary?
We wanted it.
Yes. And you wouldn't have listened, did we not give you the how-tos? If we had come through and said to you, oh, you're living in a consciousness of fear, not a consciousness of free choice. How many people do you think would actually have listened?
We wouldn't have understood what that meant.
Exactly. So we gave you the how-to. Then we told you, integrate it, which you did. Then we told you, apply it, which you have. Now we're saying, live it, which you are. Is it? Fascinating, don't you think?
Yes.
Yes, dear Maggie. Your mind is going a mile a minute here. And you think it's blank.
I've got lots of thoughts, and yeah, for sure.
But you're not allowing yourself freely, choosing freely, to participate. Why not?
I don't know.
Consciousness of fear.
Ah, okay.
Shift your consciousness. Start with operating from your consciousness of free choice here. You've done it. You do it.
Oh, sure.
But you don't. You're not right now.
No. So that's operating from the consciousness of fear. I thought I was just kind of thinking and listening to the workshop.
And
yeah.
really not letting yourself
participating.
choose freely.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think for one moment we don't know what each and every one of you can choose? What you even desire to choose in that moment? Where your energy is moving you towards. We also see the fear. We also see how it contracts, how it limits, moves you into different choices. So why aren't you participating, dear Maggie?
Yeah, I will.
You will now.
I will
once
now.
you've been told.
Yeah.
Well, why
I've
are
been
you not
invited.
participating?
I guess I don't know. A lot of times I don't participate. I just sit back and.
Why do you not?
Because I think that the group is doing this. If I have questions, I'll put them out. But you know,
Yes, but
any questions?
why do you think that you choose not to participate?
Fear.
Yes. Of what?
I don't know. Fear of belonging to the group, or fear
No.
of losing my way with my equipment.
No.
Fear of insufficiency.
Yes.
Ah, okay.
You see, in part, you keep justifying it on the basis that the group has to do it themselves.
Right.
That's just justification, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
You could jump in any time and then jump out any time, couldn't you? That's what free choice is all about.
Yeah.
In, out, in,
Yeah.
out, in, out, in. Oh, that's something that someone else just did not too long ago.
But I usually feel that way, but I think maybe I'm just kidding myself, am I? Because a lot of times, some workshops I do participate a lot in.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the ones that you don't?
I sort of get into the habit of just sitting back.
Yes. Habitual.
Mm-hmm.
Freer.
Freer?
Fear.
Oh, fear.
Not
Yeah.
freer. Fear.
I thought you meant freer just to sit here and do my equipment and write my notes.
It's not to say that you must,
No, I know.
but it's to give yourself permission to,
Yes.
which you don't.
No, a lot of times I don't. Mm-hmm.
And we do know when your mind is active.
Yeah.
You had 102,444 questions run through your mind since the beginning of this session, and not one of them has been expressed yet.
I know.
And for the benefit of those who like to have accuracy, and who would judge us on the basis that we are not exactly accurate all the time, that was an accurate statement.
I'll back that up.
How do you see our questions? As energy?
Yes. Movement, energy, choice.
So if we have more questions, does our energy like move more?
There's choice. Every thought in your mind is a choice.
Oh, really? Okay.
Think of it, here's a visualization for you. Have you ever seen fireworks?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
When it goes into the sky and it explodes,
Mm-hmm.
hundreds of thousands of little dots of light appear, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Every one of those is a thought.
Oh, wow.
Did it?
Wow. So we're more sparkly.
Yes. So, and what we observe is every one of those and where they go.
Oh, and so when you choose again, there's more sparks.
Another fireworks.
Oh, and so if we don't choose again, then it just sort of dies out? Or...
Exactly. They go nowhere. They fizzle.
Oh, wow.
Is it?
And is that when we're not participating? That's what you see, is we all just sort of go dark?
Yes. Not dark, but basically, just this is a visualization for
right.
you. We assure you, do not judge ourselves by your own definitions. You see? But it gives you a sense of what we're talking about when we say we perceive your ideas, your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
We perceive that whole movement, where it's leading to. We see the constancy and the continuity of it. We see the flow. We see the stoppage, and we see the movement. Do you see?
Mm-hmm. I had a friend who was she actually died, or was in the process. She couldn't breathe. She had anaphylactic shock, and she said in that moment she was trying to hang on to her physical body, but everything she could. It wasn't through her eyes, but she sensed the energy that made up everything.
Yes.
She said it was absolutely amazing.
It is, isn't it?
I don't know that I've ever had that experience. You see the.
Then listen to the meditation we've given on it.
Okay. On seeing the energy?
No, one moment, please.
Is that the
Supernova meditation.
Oh, supernova. Ah, right. Okay.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Now, there you are, consciousness of free choice. What happens if you're in a consciousness of fear to all of those sparkles?
They would diminish.
To extinction.
Ah.
There would be no sparkles. There would be very few thoughts exploring themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure, everything explodes and expands, and all of a sudden you get all the sparkles, and bingo, they're gone. Just as soon as they sparkle, they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the consciousness of fear, only 1 or 2 sparkles are allowed to live. Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
The consciousness of free choice, everything's allowed to continue until it finally no longer continues. Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens when there's 2 people who are oppressed? Like we did a trip to Cuba and we found that there was no creative imagination. Everything was sort of falling apart. So people just didn't move. Is that those sparkles, those questions, that creativity just
Yes, consciousness
put
of fear.
down? Yeah.
They
So
live under,
nothing.
exactly. They live under the consciousness of fear, and there's no consciousness of free choice. When you move into consciousness of free choice, creativity expands.
Mm-hmm.
Remember what we said about the new paradigm? Everything would expand, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You'd have new equipment, new machinery, new technology, new perspectives of term it propulsion systems, new ideas on how to transport. Teleportation will be invented or reinvented. Do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Cannot exist when you have a consciousness of fear. At least ways. Not as quickly. Teleportation will eventually be invented. At least the equipment to do it. There is no doubt of that. This is a given. It's 100% degree probability. But under the consciousness of fear, it will only be done when it can be controlled. Under consciousness of free choice, it can be done at any point. Is it?
So does playfulness can not only occur under when you're not under the consciousness of fear?
It depends on how you define playfulness. For oftentimes playfulness is still within the consciousness of fear, for it is only playful within certain boundaries and certain parameters.
Like playful energy, like childlike energy.
Childlike energy, true childlike energy, consciousness of free choice. Childlike energy that is defined and judged and limited, consciousness of fear.
Oh, so when I see children playing, they seem to attract childlike energy around them, but that could also be under consciousness of fear?
Yes.
Oh.
Are children born in the with the consciousness of fear, or
They're born.
born barn?
Boinked into,
Boinked.
they're boinked into existence, yes.
Boinked into that.
That's true. They are born into existence.
That's right.
But
With
they are born with a consciousness of free choice, and they are from there they choose the consciousness of fear.
And that can happen almost instantaneous.
Well, not quite instantaneously, but it does. It is a process within the first few months of existence.
And how could that happen if they're allowed to cry and not fed, or if they're not picked up, or?
Dear friend, and by the very nature of their parents.
Mm-hmm.
The energy of their parents.
Yes. This isn't just physical action, it's also energetic. A parent worries about the child's tears, worries about the child's health, worries about the child's teething, worries about the child's comfort, worries that the child will not sleep properly. Monitors are placed in the rooms, and all manners of toys are placed to distract the child. Consciousness of fear.
Did you say toys are placed to distract the child?
Yes.
And does that create fear?
Yes.
Why?
Not create fear, it's the consciousness of fear.
Hmm.
Think about it. Why do you distract the child?
So that they're happy.
Because you fear what?
They cry or they'll be.
You fear their unhappiness.
Yeah. Hmm.
So it suggests to me that the more affluent a society gets, the more of that stuff we can do, the more we're going to raise people in a consciousness of fear.
Isn't that what's been occurring?
And it is exactly what's been occurring.
I was just wondering about maybe you have parents who are on drugs or something and they actually don't care about the kids' well-being or something. I was wondering how that would...
There would still be a consciousness of fear.
Because they'd have a fear of being caught using drugs or some kind of
Not
fear.
just that, they have fear of having children. Even though they have them.
Mm-hmm.
They have a fear of having children.
In some
yet they
cases.
have them.
Not all cases, but in some cases, yes.
So they'd have some fears of their own.
Yes.
That would, yeah.
So if they have a fear of having a child and that child is born, does that child pick it up as soon as it's
Yes.
born? Hmm.
To you too.
As examples wonders, we're putting out those sparkles for the world to see, and that energy. Will children be able to see that easier than adults? Or I guess.
Yes.
Okay.
In the first formative years of their life, yes. But as they grow, no. Once they make choices to anchor themselves completely in the consciousness of fear, no.
Mm-hmm.
And for some children, those choices are made at a very early age. For others, they're made a little later, approximately 10 to 12. But for most children, by the age of 7 or 8, they're firmly anchored in the consciousness of fear.
Yeah, and especially going to school and through society. That would make
Not
big...
necessarily.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask
That,
you that.
though that can be viewed as a traumatic experience, it is not necessarily that will anchor them within the consciousness of fear. In some cases, it's anchored much earlier than that.
Hmm.
Some cases later than that. But it is around those particular years, formative years, that they are bombarded with a great deal more fear from everyone around them. And so, yes, they do take on the consciousness of fear at that point. They term it, one moment, please. Conform to society's desires. To be just like everyone else.
Right.
When the child begins to conform is when you'll start seeing the consciousness of fear.
Wonders, I know we all went through it. So when we conform, does that create more fear in us? Because we
Yes.
realize we're one way, and we have to conform to something that's not really who we are.
Yes. The consciousness of fear, it's not that you conform, it's that you the concept of conforming is based on the consciousness of fear. So whether you actually do or don't, even those individuals that think they don't conform to society, they push against society, they're still based on the consciousness of fear. Do they?
Sure.